Yay, I'm live. Good morning. I hope you can hear me okay. I'm testing out a new mic. How official is this? Eh? And I'm sitting in a new position this morning because I wanted to try out something new. I'm in my living room this time around. I'm sitting on my very comfortable poof, and I have my plant Borneo behind me. And this is episode 3 of Caffeinated Change, in which I tackle your questions or my insights from the last week about change, about transition, about transformation in cultures. And I tackle these topics in a very off the cuff, whatever comes up sort of way. I'm trying something with Caffeinated Change, which is to show up more me. Makes me feel a little nervous, to be honest, because I'm the sort of person, I think most of us are professionally, as we come to LinkedIn, as we go to our work, that likes to show up prepared, and likes to take a lot of notes, who likes to do a lot of prep work for my presentations. And with Caffeinated Change, I want you to experience me. I want you to experience what comes to me naturally. I want you to get to know me. I want to be as human and real as possible here, because I think it's really fundamental for culture change in organizations that we as leaders begin doing the vulnerable thing, which is showing up as ourselves. We're not going to make big culture change, and I'm talking about organizational, but also systemic. We're not going to make these changes happen by showing up prepared. Big change is not going to happen because we show up with a big strategic plan. Big change is going to happen because we show up humble, because we show up curious, because we show up with open hearts and ready to learn something about the people around us, and also ready to learn something about ourselves. And that's what I really want to do with Caffeinated Change. I want to learn something about me through this method, and also about you. As I have with the other episodes of Caffeinated Change, I want to start with a land acknowledgement. I am in Verdun. These are unceded Indigenous lands, and I recognize the Ganyukahaga Nation as the custodians of the lands and waters upon which we are gathering today virtually, and upon which I live and love and breathe and get to savor my life. And I'm deeply, deeply grateful to the Indigenous peoples of Canada, and to what I've learned, from the Indigenous peoples of Canada. So the last 2 episodes, I mentioned in the last one that, I would have loved to start both of them really lighthearted and kind of like, let's talk about change. And in the both, last week and the week before, there was just really awful, violent, racially charged news, and so I had to address those. But in this week, I did want to come into this episode hopeful, a little bit more lighthearted and optimistic, because that's generally my demeanor, quite frankly. I'm optimistic about what's possible. I'm hopeful about what's possible. I believe that, as I said at the beginning of this, if we show up more ourselves, if we show up more curious, if we show up more humble, if we show up ready to learn, that we can create systemic change. We can create inclusive environments where people feel safe to bring their creativity and their personality and their opinions forward. And we can make some real change happen in societies. We can build some real solutions with the businesses that we are all nurturing right now. Businesses that don't just exist to make money, but that exist to have a real impact on the world, So what I want to start with is the question for you. What have you done this week that has allowed you to take one small step towards the change that you want to see in your life, in your workplace, in the world around you? What have you done? I want to take the opportunity to talk about, different levels of action that we can take: small, medium, large. My belief, both personally and also professionally, based on the experience that I've lived supporting in culture strategy, culture building, and leadership development, is that change happens really in small steps first. We start where we are, we start with ourselves, we start by becoming more aware of the practices that we bring to our day to day, and that's how we begin stepping toward the change that we want to see. So for me personally, what I've been thinking about this week, as far as what I'm doing to lead change in my life, is I'm thinking a lot about the business that I want to build. I'm thinking a lot about how I want to grow my consultancy. I'm thinking about how I want to share information. And I'm picturing myself, 5, 10 years down the road. What do I see? I see someone who's not hustling, who's not grinding. I see someone who's in community. I see someone who's balanced, who savors life, whose creative well is filled. I see someone who takes time away from screens. I see someone who leads with love. I see someone who has a small team of really passionate, purpose driven, strategic counterparts. And I see myself teaching other people how to do culture building using my methods. But that vision of my future, what I'm thinking about this week is that I need to be making choices right now that lead to a business structure like that. And one of the choices that I feel I'm really intentionally making is taking time to rest, taking time to, take in my surroundings, taking time to nurture my soul, you know, take me a little bit longer to walk to the cafe in the morning if I'm going there for my coffee. Although today I have it here with me. Taking time to do the activities that make me feel whole. My theory is that if I spend more time on the activities that make me feel good, that nurture me as an individual, that my business will be healthier. And that means a lot less time working, a lot less time being productive, a lot less time checking things off lists. And one of the things that I did do this week to kind of live this more love-filled, balanced life is I went to a cafe and I was sitting outside, and this woman, I was reading a book, just kind of enjoying my coffee, and this woman um, grabbed her coffee and then was sitting down on the bench beside me, and she was holding two beautiful goose feathers. And I was like, wow, that's, did you just pick those up? And she said, I never pick up feathers, but this goose kind of landed in front of me on my walk this morning and turned around and looked at me and then shook its tail and dropped these feathers. And she said, I really felt like this was a sign for me that this was that I was supposed to pick up the feathers. And I said, wow, they're really beautiful. I wonder what the symbolism of the goose is, or of geese. And she and I got into a fantastic conversation. We talked for about an hour, just about all kinds of things, about meditation, about presence, about groundedness, about our connection to nature, about culture building, about all kinds of things. And one of the things that I told her was what I just shared with you, that I really want to be building a very balanced, present business. And the way that I'm doing that is that I'm trying to practice balance and presence in my life. And she said, have you heard of the notion of monotasking? And monotasking is essentially the opposite of multitasking. It's one intentional, present act at a time. And she said, she learned about monotasking after the untimely passing of her brother, very sudden death. And she was left extremely depressed and disconnected. And she started monotasking as a way to process, as a way to become more present, as a way to care for herself. And so throughout this last week, I've been thinking, what is the impact of me becoming more present and intentional to the things that I'm doing? What is the impact of me becoming more present to the act of drinking water, of being here with you, of eating a peach, of writing, of having a conversation with a potential collaborator or client? What is the impact for me? And I'm telling you, I instantly felt the impact I instantly feel it in my body, getting out of my brain and into my body, feeling more grounded. And I felt it and I feel it in the conversations that I'm having over the last week. They've just been so rich. And I've also experienced this notion of monotasking in my relationship with time. Things feel more expansive and longer and richer. And, you know, these things that we do as leaders that really just seem like self-care, they shape how we show up to our relationships. They shape how we show up to the environments that we're in. They shape how we show up to our teams, to our strategic thinking. They shape how we show up to our vision for life and our vision for our businesses. It starts small. It starts with presence. It starts with consciousness. It starts with an intention to ourselves, to be intentionally present to ourselves. This sounds like some woo-woo granola stuff. I know. And yeah, maybe it is. Self-love. Self-love is such a potent, powerful tool in the workplace. Self-love shows up in small ways and it greatly impacts the environment we build around us. When you show yourself love and presence, when you question with compassion, when you contemplate, do I really want to do that? What is my fundamental belief about this? How could I show up to this more patient? When you question with love and you show up to yourself with love, you create an environment around you where you're showing your team what's acceptable and what's invited from them. If you show up with love, they show up with love. And this is an environment where there's more respect, where there's more understanding of each other's needs. And ultimately, when that environment exists, there's the potential for more creativity and collaboration and change. If we want to face change as a group of people, we need to start by loving ourselves and recognizing what blocks or supports our ability to face change. We're not going to plow through change. We're going to get present and intentional to change. It starts small. So yeah, I wanted to share that story about monotasking. And how are you all doing out there? Take a moment to be present to you. If anyone's with me, drop a hello in the comments. I want to answer a question. Actually, this one wasn't asked directly by anyone specifically. It was a topic that's been coming up over and over and over again. It seems like all of the people who are interested in my work as far as culture strategy and with Change Leader, the program of culture development that I built. And if you don't know about Change Leader, hi, Rox. Good morning. Nice to see you in here. So, Change Leader is a culture building program, but it's specifically focused on leadership development. So I'm working one-on-one with leaders or one to a group, as in I'm working with a leadership team, and I'm supporting you in becoming, hello, Azaday. Oh, it's so good to see people in the comments. So with Change Leader, I'm supporting people. Oh, I'm so glad you like this. Honestly, doing Caffeinated Change has really allowed me to ground from week to week and really allowed me to recognize how embodied I am in my work and how embodied we can all be in our work, how present we can become to the things that we do, and how much love We can pour into everything. And the exciting thing about doing caffeinated change is that and about pouring love into this is also that it's allowed me to recognize and instantly feel what I don't want to do and what isn't aligned. And it's supported me in becoming more transparent about my boundaries and more vocal with the people that I work with about what I can and cannot do for them. It's so yeah, I'm so glad that you're enjoying this. Anyways, I was talking about change leader. I was talking about the sorts of questions I'm getting from people who are interested in working with me. And what I'm seeing is that there's a trend. The people who want to invest in culture building and who want to invest in change leader, they're not senior players. They're not, top level executives. They're not C-suite, but they're senior directors. They're directors of innovation. They're directors of people. They're senior in HR. And what across the board, what all of them have essentially asked is, how can I manage up? They've given me a mandate. I've gotten a mandate where I need to invest in culture and build culture. But I recognize, now I'm speaking as the director here, I recognize that I can't just do this from my level with my team. If we're really going to experience culture change, I need my senior players. I need the C-suite. I need the executives to be invested as well. How do I do that? How do I get them invested? And my response to that is, in the past, I would have said, let's try to get them on board. Let's do everything we can, figure out who the advocate is, and then nurture them through the proposal process and make sure that everybody is on board from the leadership team's perspective, because we need everybody to be pulling in the same direction. The truth and the reality is that that's just like not always possible. Not everybody wants to lean so heavily into change. And so we need to take it step by step. Now, returning to this whole idea that I just shared about like change starting with you in small ways with these directors, with the question of like, how do I manage up and how do I get my senior players involved? What I say is we need to start here where you are. We need to start with the microculture that you influence. And that could be a team of 3 or 5, but it could be a much, much bigger team. And what we need to do is to demonstrate the potency and the creative potential of a microculture where people are invested in each other, in themselves, and in creative solutions. We start where we are and we build a case study with the immediate team. And then from there, we can convince the higher ups of the importance of stepping into change. And this might sound like really, I don't know, business 101 or sales 101, but the fact is that I think culture work is actually significantly more challenging for senior players to engage in because it's so personally investing or motivated. It's so personally motivated, and it's about change. And that brings up so much fear and such a need for control, and a lot of reticence. So we need to take it slow. We need to recognize where people are at. We need to start with the influence that we have in our immediate circle. And then we need to support our higher ups, our decision makers, in recognizing how our culture work, investing in culture strategy, supports us in addressing the problems that senior players have already identified. We address the problem of retention of talent or attraction of talent. We address the problem of lack of creativity, and we address the problem of a lack of decision-making through culture work. But senior players often need that demonstrated in action. And so we start where you are, and that's how you manage up. You start with the microculture that you directly influence. All right. It's 9:00, and that means that I have spoken for about 20 minutes. And I hope that you enjoyed this. I hope that you drew something from it. I hope that you feel my open heart and my presence and my support of you and my belief in you, because I do deeply believe in you. I hope you have a beautiful day. If you have any specific questions that you want me to tackle in the next Caffeinated Change or through Messenger, who's using Messenger these days? Through DMs, feel free to write me. I'm obviously very present on LinkedIn and very happy to have chats. What else do I want to say? Check out more information about Change Leader, which is a program that I mentioned, at erinwillett.ca/change-leader. I'm not doing a great job of this final closing pitch, but essentially, I'm here. You'll see me next week. I love doing this, and I'm here to address the real challenges that you have. So if you have a question, you have a challenge, send it my way. Have a beautiful Thursday. Have a beautiful end of week, and I will see you next week.